Question number 10. Warren Buffett is quoted saying, rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Miriam, how do we not lose money?
Yeah, don't be passive. Empower yourself with education. Read my best-selling book, Property Prosperity. That'll give you a big picture overview, but it'll get you to consider your risk profile. Because I always have clients coming to me going, I want you to buy me a development site. And when I ask them their risk profile and they say, well, it's low, I explain the distinction and the difference between the two, and they inevitably change their strategy. So that's unbelievably important because it is about sleeping at night. Most people don't sleep at night because they bite off more than they can chew. They do it naively. And, you know, quite frankly, with developing nowadays, the margins now aren't what they were decades ago. Yeah, so why take on the highest risk profile you can possibly do developing for a really small return with all the manner in which things can go wrong when you could simply buy something that matches your risk profile and to a degree set and forget. The other thing is find out your borrowing capacity early, stick to your budget and be buy ready if you're going to actually buy a property. Searching on the internet is not research, it's searching. So don't fool yourself that sitting on the internet every night for an hour and a half is research, because unless you know what you're looking for, is simply searching. I come back to that gentleman with that massive portfolio, and his one solution was to buy undervalue. And his negotiation method was unbelievably arrogant. It was take it or leave it. And I just said, well, I don't work that way, and I'm not going to be arrogant and dictate to a vendor that kind of position, so that I have to start the process all over again. You know, that's not what I do. That's not how it works. So, yeah, but definitely if you lack expertise, or if you're not confident to buy on your own, or even if you're overconfident, then you're actually best to invest in a specialist and work with a credible buyer's agent. So, you know, you want Google reviews, you want to see media, you want to see qualifications, you want to see case studies, you want to see evidence of the capital growth that their clients have had. Those sorts of things. Professional indemnity insurance, what state are they licensed in? But I'd avoid the borderless buyer agents who take enormous risks for their clients. You know, I hear stories all the time of selling agents selling rubbish to them because they sell them the stuff the locals won't buy because the locals know better. And then because they put everyone in it, it falsely inflates the market and people think they've done well. But if they come to try and sell it, they're not going to be selling to the locals. They'll have to sell to someone who's equally naive about what they've bought and where they've bought it.
It's interesting. I see that's, for me, if I was starting out as an investor, what I'd do is I'd get Terry, I know you know Terry Ryder, Terry Ryder's hot spotting reports. I'd get probably SQM, Harry Todd White's property clock, and I'd overlay all the areas that they recommend, right? And if they all three of them said, buy in the Sunshine Coast, I'd say, I'd find a local buyer's agency in the Sunshine Coast and use that person rather than someone who says, we service everywhere and just using property managers to do inspections. So that's how I would approach it. Yeah,
and not everyone can service everywhere. You know, you don't want a buyer's agent who's sitting on the internet in Sydney or Melbourne and recommending buy this property in Queensland, never having seen it. And a lot of them will farm their work out to the local property manager who they've got an agreement with, where they fill in a checkbox, but that's not the same as looking at a property. You know, when you inspect a property yourself, there are smells, there are sounds, there are noises. You know, you can't tick that on a checkbox. And
the property managers are incentivised to get the property management agreement afterwards, right? So they've got a bit of incentive there as well.
It's a total conflict of interest. And at the end of the day, these buyer agents tell their clients what they're going to do, but it doesn't mean they're not liable if it turns to shit, because they're outsourcing to a third non-related party. And I'd be very concerned about the legal implications there if something goes wrong and who's going to get sued. Because if you're engaging a buyer's agent and you're paying that agency to do the work and they're farming their job out to someone else who's not related, well, why would you want to be involved in that with that agency?
Yeah.